Hey guys, I am here to get into Mulholland Drive, which was directed by Lynch, released in the year 2001. And this is an ultimate depiction of a dreamy perspective, which turns out to be a nightmare. And instantly, this washed over is just one of my absolute favorite Lynch projects. And to this day, it is my favorite Lynch project, right? Alexa, Tweaks to Return. And how original this is, and how personal, close up. And just it's like a very like linear way of following such an experimental concept, but I feel like Lynch just David Lynch portrays this in a way that's like just perfectly rich in suspense value to an extent that it almost just resonates on feeling. And it's a very transitional way of making a film, and I find it's just almost just feels more harsh and brutal in passing time, and like I guess that might perhaps Lynch has laid out the greatest depiction of all time of just like characters in depths of like 21st century modern age brutality. And it's like a rich kind of cautionary tale, almost just kind of like as if Lynch were kind of assessing the 1990s. And I love looking at his bridge through all that, but it's almost like he's kind of looking at all that dark nihilism that was happening there, almost giving a cautionary tale to me, like perhaps around all that in a sense. And face just getting too far into the just dark depths of depression, you can say, past the point of return. And it involves a lot of like Stanley Kubrick was doing with Eyes Wide Shut into something of a horrifying cautionary tale on just the dark side of the subconscious in a lot of ways. Very dreamy and surreal depiction of just depression from start to finish, where a majority of it feels kind of more floaty and dreamy, but then that just kind of makes the dark and haunting moments more haunting and just tragic ultimately as well. Very psychologically horrifying, very emotional kind of soundtrack by Angelo Badalamenti, which just gets perfectly to this very moody kind of story. It's a very dry perspective and kind of just a subtle sort of cautionary tale from start to finish. It's just an all-time favorite project of depicting the delusional pattern and the extent of hell that can ultimately spawn from excessively shattered idealism, as Lynch just crosses just so many lines here with psychological depth of dreamlike and haunting filmmaking alike, which is just bruised straight into the subconscious and speaks to emotional value. Um, as I would say that Laura Herring, Naomi Watts are just some of my absolute favorite performances here of all time, as well as Justin Theroux. Whole cast is incredible. That kind of loose trio is just perfect right there. And it just kind of feels like it's like a nightmare kind of spawning. And anyways, and it's always often ambiguous, like whose imagination it's supposed to like kind of mean in a lot of ways. But there's just suspense value about it all that really holds up from start to finish. It resonates on a very subconscious kind of level, and it's just haunting. It's a horror. It feels like a horror project ultimately what it's doing. It's actually very disturbing in its own original kind of way. Also very dreamy. It's just almost just on a technical sense, it's just about one of the greatest films ever made. It feels like just the way that all these scenes unfold, the way all these scenes are paced out, just wonderfully slow paced, and you really just get to know the characters really well, despite like all the identity confusion, which often kind of feels like it's a modernized take on a lot of films, such as like particularly like Persona and Three Women. Um, and also, it's just like completely original. Also, kind of moving forward the foundation of Lost Highway, and to, I'd say something of a little bit more of an emotional perspective rather than nihilistic. And yeah, this is just a film that pushes all kinds of boundaries for me in a lot of ways. It's just original and seeing something of a downward. I think Lynch's depiction of a downward spiral is just about the most. It's just the most personal kind of thing possible. Just moving. It's like a very forward-thinking kind of timeless foundations. It's like I feel like there's a lot of like ultimate psychological, like subconscious horrors kind of living in this project. It's kind of like it kind of like almost takes the canvas of Eyes Wide Shut to the next level in a lot of ways. What it's doing. Very just raw, disturbing, just original, completely original project. There's just not really been one quite like this before, since even in the realm of like Lost Highway and Inland Empire. There's similar types of projects, but very different ways of going about a similar kind of concept. This is on its own kind of emotional way of perfect cinematography. I mean, the whole project's just kind of like solving this puzzle piece from start to finish, and it just takes all kinds of just kind of nonlinear dream perspective. I mean, it's very subtle in pacing. Just wonderful how it all unfolds, and just one of the most wonderfully crafted films I've ever seen. Wonderfully made, wonderfully paced. I'd say every time I watch this, it does kind of watch it over something new every single time. It's always an original experience. Watching this as Lynch just perfectly understands how to portray all of this so well smoothly. It just puts you in a trance-inducing kind of perspective from start to finish. The characterization, the atmosphere, like all the way a lot of these scenes unfold. Like some of them are my all-time favorites here, as it feels like a tragedy in depths of over-ambition, you could say. There's just a lot that really deserves the best of acclaim about this project and just how it's all made. and it's just a complete way from start to finish. Um, there's just like so many elements that are just worth dissecting and how and what they all represent towards the whole story. So much symbolism, and just so many offbeat moments between the characters. Although it's ultimately just very a like it's like a dreamy way turned to a disturbing edge. Yeah, it's just very timeless. Like this just does feel like technically speaking about one of the greatest projects to be made in the 21st century. Just so many good scenes. I mean, like I would say these scenes are extremely just out there, very abstract, very mysterious, very haunting. Ultimately, so many lines of dialogue here that just kind of eternally haunt. Also, just the things a lot of the characters. Um, and just following all this, it's just always very entertaining. It's just the way that Lynch tells it. It's just extremely original. Almost like such a tough seems like it would be such a tough project to sell, and but it's just a perfect kind of surrealist sort of piece ultimately. And again, it kind of feels like Lynch is sort of almost like his own kind of final boss of the 1990s. Like that's what it kind of feels like ultimately in the atmosphere. It also does feel like there's definitely some distinct like early 2000s perspective atmosphere happening here as well. Um, and yeah, it's just a film that always opens to fresh interpretation. So every time you watch it, it means something new, but it's meant to hit just raw emotional notes. It's like the atmosphere itself is just like a character, and all these moments just really are timeless. I'd say that everyone here is often just like it seems like in a deluding themselves from their own frustration. Like it's ultimately like a bunch of just like characters living in a beautiful moment before a frustrating revelation can break all of that. And it's just a very subconscious kind of way of exploring this. Just kind of not being able to shake off the tragedy of just caving into just too far to delusional depth. I mean, the soundtrack here too. There's just so much music here that's just strikes in the spirit in such an overall kind of way. One of the most powerful projects ever made, most certainly. There is something extremely powerful about all of this ultimately. Um, Perhaps just kind of looking at just something that's just it's very tough to function in this kind of atmosphere, and yeah, it's just a collection of insane moments basically from start to finish. And it has an intensity about it which just gets better every time really. I would say this really does just kind of like Lynch just like kind of made his own Pulp Fiction. Like Tarantino had his own, Quentin Tarantino has his own original foundation to lay out with the film Pulp Fiction. This is like Lynch's take on all that. Um, yeah, it's just perfect from start to finish. I could rewatch these scenes forever. I think I just never really get too tired of it in a lot of ways. It's just has that mysterious way about it.